Like it or not, religious leaders, especially pastors, wield a huge amount of power over the flock they oversee. But more often than not, we see that influence gets misused and manipulated for the preacher's selfish, devious intentions. From staged resurrections to Ponzi schemes, today, we take a look at some of the most corrupted black pastors. What number 5 did will leave you shocked forever. Number 9. Alan Bosak. Coming in at number 9, we'll begin with Alan Bosak, a liberation saint who found himself a new kind of freedom. At first, he was the man of the people, spewing fire from his holy mouth against the vials of the racist segregation that was in place in South Africa in those dark days of apartheid. Side by side with the great Archbishop Desmond Tutu,
Thanks. And then we're going to stop.
Bosak called out corruption with a Bible in one hand and a microphone in the other. But that was the image he let us all see, because somewhere between the sermons about liberation and the conferences about justice, Alan Bosak found a new kind of freedom, financial freedom. You see, Bosak was more than a pastor. He was a movement, good-looking, charismatic, sharp-tongued, respected around the world. When he talked, everyone listened, and he talked a lot about the oppressed, the poor, the voiceless. The whole world believed him.
They never spoke to our people. From today on, we will say to them, whatever it is that you decide, unless you speak to your people, we will stand up, we will protest, we will block you at every turn, and we will never...
Where he went, their hearts and minds followed, and so did their pockets. Donations poured in, millions meant for humanitarian work, all entrusted to this reverend who promised change. The only problem? Not all that money made it to the hungry. By 1999, the people's pastor had become the defendant. A man who once accused governments of greed was suddenly accused of exactly that, fraud and theft. Investigators had found out that donor funds meant for children's programs had taken a detour through Bosak's personal channels. It was like Robin Hood had stopped sharing with the village and started shopping for himself. The same hands that once held protest placards had now been caught signing checks in all the wrong places. Of course, when the allegations came, he tried to fight them, claiming it was a misunderstanding, some sort of technical mix-up, but the evidence was too clear, too concise to sweep away. He spent just over a year in prison. But by the time he'd be released, his reputation was soiled, his halo has left him, his following fractured, and all he was left with was a complicated legacy, the freedom fighter who'd freed donor funds into his own coffers. But up next is a man who, by all logical reasoning, should never be allowed to mount a pulpit ever again. Number 8. Paseka Motsoeneng. In the East Rand of Johannesburg, South Africa, there's a man named Paseka Motsoeneng, or, as some people like to call him, Pastor Mboro, who pastors a church he's called Incredible Happenings Ministries. And honestly, there couldn't have possibly been a more fitting name for this fraudster's congregation. The things that happen there are beyond incredible. They're unheard of. In 2011, Motsoeneng was accused of SA after inserting his hands into 2 of his congregants' supposedly to expel. Yes, you heard that right. This self-styled man of God, 17-year-old child in the full glare of his church members. But the horrors don't nearly end here. In fact, they're only just beginning, because just 7 years after that, Mboro claimed to have restored a couple's libido, and to prove it, he had the couple perform intercourse in front of a TV crew. When TV shows wouldn't show the incident, Mboro organized a mass protest to be staged outside the TV studios to force them to air the episode. This was obviously a man who was using the pulpit as a front to express all of his decadent fantasies and his habits with money. Mboro wasn't any better in that regard either. He was terrible with credit. In 2020, a major South African bank threatened to auction his Germiston house due to non-payment of loans. Apparently, they'd loaned him around 1.4 million rand, some $82,000, but he had only paid around 600,000 rands, about $35,000. So roughly 6 years after taking out this loan, Mboro was owing arrears of around 1.3 million rand, about $76,000. In his defense, he claimed that the bank had been fraudulently stealing money from his account amounting to over 3 million rand. But then, around the time of this debacle, this man, Motsoeneng, had recently purchased a BMW i8 said to be valued at 1 to 2 million rand, about $100,000. A little too much for a humble servant of God, if you asked me. His antics were so bad, the BBC did a documentary on him titled The Millionaire Preacher, Reggie Yates, Extreme South Africa. This man was more of a con man than he was a man of God. In March of 2016, Mboro told his congregation that he'd gone to heaven during an Easter church service, and he'd come back with souvenirs, selfies he'd taken on his smartphone. For those who'd like to see them, their wallets would have to open though. He was requesting a donation of 5,000 rand, around $340 or so. Before the story made it to social media, some unsuspecting members had already paid the fee. No refunds were made, however, and yet, while it's pretty obvious that this man was just playing on the faith of people who were just looking to worship their creator, you'd be shocked to realize that Mboro still has a very strong following to this day. In fact, they were over the moon to welcome him when the legal debacle was over.
La mporo la, awusumporo la, you know? Ngazothandaza la.
But if you thought Mboro's heavenly selfies were wild, then this next pastor will knock your socks off. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 99% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Number 7. Prophet Lethabo Rabalago. This is Prophet Lethabo Rabalago, the Mount Zion General Assembly prophet who sprayed doom on his members' faces. Not doom like perilous situations. No, this man was actually spraying the insecticide, doom, in people's faces. In 2016, Lethabo was recorded on camera doing this. He claimed that the insect repellent he was using could work healing miracles, such as curing his church members of cancer and also HIV. When interviewed about it, Lethabo claimed he'd sprayed the face of one woman because she had an eye infection.
Took the step of faith that I believe it can heal people, and I believe people, they saw the testimonies and people, they were healed.
So why not use water or oil then?
My faith, I believe it was extended to.
So who's telling you to use doom?
God.
God's telling you. And has God told you about the side effects of spraying doom in someone's eyes?
Yes, but we haven't seen the side effect because that person was having problem with eyes. So after we did for that person, we sprayed the doom, the eyes were opened, just like that.
According to him, after the healing, the woman turned out just fine because she believed in the power of God. His reasoning was pretty straightforward. If insecticide could ward off cockroaches, then it could surely ward off the evil spirits that were causing these ailments in his church members too. However, the manufacturers, Tiger Brands, thought otherwise. To them, the practice was extremely alarming, and they weren't wrong. For those who didn't receive their healing, the side effects of the spraying plagued them for several months afterwards. Surprisingly, his members were solidly behind him. They said he was a man of miracles, not madness. Some even claimed doom had cured them of pain and sickness. But their illogical thought patterns didn't matter. Eventually, this self-styled prophet of doom was dragged to court, where he was forced to pay fines. But this wasn't the only weird thing happening at Lethabo's church. Photos surfaced on social media of him making church members lie on the floor while loudspeakers were placed on top of them. Thankfully, from the latest updates, it appears Lethabo's church has been closed down, and honestly, good riddance to bad rubbish. Up next, at number 6, we have Pastor Colin Davids, a South African pastor who taught his congregants that God actually wanted them rich, but it could only happen if they invested through him. And this wasn't some basic tithing scheme. No, Davids was going for something much bigger. He brought a business idea to his New Direction Grace Ministries congregants. All they had to do was invest in a Ponzi scheme he was bringing their way. The congregants, full of blind faith in their pastor, immediately began pumping the project with their money. He called it Platinum Forex CC. Those that put their money into it were promised a monthly return of 2 to 8. And at the end of the investment period, they were guaranteed to get their invested amount, so old investors would be paid with money from new investors. It was a little shady, but there was nothing to bother about. The man of God had co-signed this wonderful opportunity. It was going to change their financial situations forever, he'd said, and in truth it did, just not in the way they had expected. After nearly 10 years, not a single person had received any money, investment capital, nor interest. Questions were asked, but they were answered with biblical calls for them to exercise patience. In 2025, the man of God by calling, Forex trader by hustle, was in court, along with his business partner, Derek Bredenkamp, accused of fraud. Apparently, it had been discovered that his Ponzi, Platinum Forex, wasn't registered as a financial service provider, and so wasn't lawfully entitled to conduct the business of a banker. Besides, people's funds were missing, to the tune of 329 million rand, nearly $18 million. Eventually, they were slammed with 56 counts of fraud. Their sentences? 9 years in jail each for financial fraud. Sadly, it's not quite the same case for this next preacher. Number 5. Pastor Timothy Omotoso. Now, if you've watched this far, we've shown you prosperity preachers. We've exposed fraudulent miracle workers. But with the disturbing case of Timothy Omotoso, we have a man who was neither. Omotoso was something far worse, a man who wrapped manipulation, money, and abuse in the language of God. Born in Nigeria, Omotoso came to South Africa with a Bible in one hand and a business plan in the other. On that foundation, he built Jesus Dominion International, a church with branches across the country. On TV, he was charismatic, smooth-talking, well-dressed, the kind of pastor who could make even the skeptical lean in. And honestly, who wouldn't? Omotoso wasn't like the other prosperity preachers who, to be frank, have become quite stale. Instead, his sermons were the firebrand stuff: holiness, destiny, and deliverance, the kind of words that would get anybody off their seat. But behind the sermons, there was a darker kind of dominion at play. Omotoso's ministry was built on fear, control, and submission. According to court documents, young women in his church were allegedly groomed, manipulated, and coerced into lewd acts, which he told them were serving the man of God. He told them that obeying him was equivalent to obeying God, and when they resisted, they were under spiritual attack, turning unsuspecting young women's faith into a weapon. That's how Omotoso managed to blur the line between religion and exploitation. It all unraveled in 2017 when Omotoso was arrested at Port Elizabeth Airport on his way out of South Africa. The charges? Human trafficking and assault involving several young women. One of them was only 15 years old when the started. The details that came out during the trial were chilling. Survivors described being housed in facilities Omotoso called disciples' residences, isolated from their families, and forced to perform acts under the guise of spiritual obedience. Surprisingly, after spending 8 years in jail awaiting trial, Omotoso was released earlier this year as the court found that the prosecuting team failed to present a solid case beyond reasonable doubt. Pretty sus, isn't it? His reaction to the sentence was even more embarrassing.
Father, we thank you. We give you all the glory back to you. Father, we thank you.
Number 4. Prophet Andrew Ejimadu. Now, if you thought the gift of salvation was free, but also verifiable, then you'd need to think again, because Prophet Andrew Ejimadu would like to have a word with your sensibilities. Better known as Seer 1, Ejimadu was a Nigerian-born, self-styled miracle worker who set up shop in South Africa and later Zambia, where he quickly turned the pulpit into something between a circus act and a magic show. His whole reputation was built on wild, theatrical stunts, which he called miracles. The most popular one happened in 2018. When he did this,
as a magician and not a prophet. Social media users claimed that a true prophet would not dabble in such gimmicks and shenanigans in front of TV cameras. Some also said that this was a typical occultist posing as a man of the cloth, working under the spirit of Mammon and the devil. Well, as Bible says. Watch.
Yes, you saw right. This pastor just puked out hard currency into the handbag of one of his church members. As silly as it looked, to Ejimadu, this wasn't stagecraft, it was a real sign from God. But behind the performance, there was something much darker. Seer 1 was accused multiple times of exploiting his followers financially. Congregants testified that he frequently demanded cash donations, which he called seeds of faith. The promise? If they complied, their debts would disappear and miracle money would manifest in their bank accounts. Of course, the only bank account that got blessed was his own, but the people really took it in. According to reports, these Sunday donations helped Ejimadu rake in thousands every week, funding the expensive, ugly-looking suits he wore. Authorities, of course, didn't vibe with it at all. When he traveled over to Zambia in 2017, he got arrested for alleged witchcraft and financial manipulation of churchgoers. He was named a danger to public morality and permanently banned from entering the country. But instead, Ejimadu claimed he had dirty laundry on them. He's back in South Africa now, and to this day, keeps posting, keeps provoking, and keeps performing. Worst of all, people keep falling for his antics, just like they did for this next pastor. Number 3. Alf Lukau. Now, this next pastor called himself a man of miracles.
You are healed. Somebody holla.
From unexplainable healings to financial wonders and miraculous detective work.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Can you give back what you took from that lady close to you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You didn't take a thing.
Sorry?
You didn't take anything, right?
No, Pastor.
My daughter, look at me. Here, give me the money. Give me that. Give the money.
Alf Lukau did everything. This man wasn't the kind of pastor who just preached resurrection. He actually scheduled one. Back in 1919, he pulled one of the most ridiculous stunts that has ever been recorded in South African Christendom.
Elliot. Hello, Elliot. Elliot. Elliot.
Jesus.
Lift your hands.
With cameras rolling and crowds screaming, Lukau raised a dead man out of his coffin.
Man is commanding life.
Rise up! Yes! Come on! Come on! Hey!
And just like that, South Africa had its own resurrection, documented and televised. Or at least, they had a really good rehearsal for one. But here's where everything went to the ground. It turned out the dead man wasn't so dead. He'd been breathing all along, just waiting for his cue. Funeral parlors all over the country began suing him for the resurrection stunt. But when he would respond, his response was almost biblical in itself. He claimed he had only completed a miracle that God had already started. And yet, for some reason, Lukau's church is still alive, still posting religious events here on YouTube, and still has a very large following. Alleluia Ministries International, that's the name of the church he started in February of 2002. It's where this fake miracle took place. And yet, nearly half a decade after, the church has only grown in membership, spreading outside Southern Africa to parts of Europe and South America. 23 years after its founding, the ministry now boasts some 95,000 members. And with that growth has come a lot of financial increase for Lukau. On his social media accounts, this miracle for hire pastor has tons of posts flaunting his celebrity pastor lifestyle. There you'd find pictures of his luxury cars, which include a Rolls-Royce, Range Rover, Bentley, Mercedes-Benz, and many others. And the man knows a thing or two about the biker life, as he owns a three-wheeler custom bike. And where does the money for all those flashy wheels come from? Well, his thousands of congregants, of course. In 2016, he got into hot water when he held a marriage conference where he allegedly charged women up to 5,000 Rand, about $300, to find husbands. And when a South African journalist, Solomon Ashomzizang, published something against Lukau, he was found in contempt of court and slapped with a suspended sentence after he had flouted an order to stop publishing defamatory comments about Lukau, his wife, or his church. This man definitely wasn't leaving the "touch not my anointed" scripture to chance. He was leaving no stone unturned in making sure it happened. And up next, we have another, should we say, very hands-on? Well, let's not say the word, but he turned preacher. Number 2. Hubert Angel. Before his rebrand as Hubert Angel, he was simply Hubert Mudzinair from Zimbabwe. But apparently, Mudzinair Ministries didn't fit well enough for the prosperity gospel he was planning. So he changed names, traveled to South Africa, and founded the Spirit Embassy Church. The playbook was pretty simple: slick sermons filled with talk about prosperity.
If you lack to a level where you can't provide for your family, you don't believe Jesus. So in every area you are in, recognize masters of money and honor them. It doesn't matter what they are. They might be drunkards, sinners, whores. Honor that aspect of their lives.
Supernatural wealth and divine favor. Oh, and tailored suits, plus plenty of charisma. The people ate it up. Hook, line, and sinker. There was no doubt in their hearts. This was God's prophet to the nations. The result was a prosperity preacher worth several millions of dollars, who rode a fleet of luxurious vehicles, wore expensive jewelry, and flew private jets, while much of his South African congregants lived in absolute squalor, desperately hoping for the next word from the man of God that would change their situation. And with stunts like these,
this is a woman.
Yes, prophet.
This is a woman. But you, before this woman, there was something.
Yes, prophet.
And there is a girl.
Yes, prophet.
Now this one is not giving a child.
Yes, prophet.
And your desire is a boy.
Yes, prophet.
which he called forensic prophecies. Congregants gave him their full trust, but that's when it all came crashing down. In 2023, as part of their gold mafia investigation, Al Jazeera released this video.
You want a gold? Gold, we can do it right now. We can make the call right now, and it's done with the president of Miners Association right this minute. They want to invest in gold and buy gold and maybe send a private jet, picks up gold every week.
That's perfect. No, that's okay. Let's do it, bro.
It's money that cannot be declared in the country of origin.
We've already discussed it. We don't want to talk about.
If you're confused about what it meant, this was ample evidence that Angel was using his diplomatic status as an ambassador to move millions in dirty out of South Africa. The plan was simple. Using Angel's cover, they'd swap the money for gold and then smuggle it out of South Africa through Zimbabwe for UAE buyers. The plan was pretty neat and seemed very covered up, but when that documentary dropped, it was out in the open. God's billionaire was apparently funding his portfolio with his extensive role in a massive money laundering and gold smuggling operation. But when Hubert was questioned about it, he spun the script around expertly, calling the whole thing a classified national intelligence operation. His faithfuls, too, threw their full support behind the man they called Papa, defending him online and claiming it was a spiritual attack meant to soil his reputation and undermine the good work he was doing. For some reason, he never got punished properly for the scam and only served a short suspension from his role as special presidential envoy and ambassador at large for the Republic of Zimbabwe to Europe and the Americas. Today, he's still one of South Africa's most revered men of God and has even started putting his son onto the gig.
Ambassador at large, I'm ambassador to 85 countries, but on the special envoy, I'm a representative of the president. That means I can sign contracts, I can sign treaties with government without the president getting involved.
Apparently, turning people's faith into a family business isn't off the cards for this profit-pushing preacher. But last but by no means the least, we have got number one, Shepherd Bushry. And should we say, he is the biggest fraud of them all. This man claimed to walk on air, command angels, and turn poverty into profit. A self-proclaimed prophet, self-styled businessman, and self-appointed major one, Bushiri was less of a preacher and more of a brand, one he'd built on flashy displays of wealth, spectacle, and divine drama.
I invite the glory of God to appear in this place in the form of wind, in the form of a burning fire. I call the
glory! Born in Malawi, Bushiri became a superstar pastor in South Africa through his enlightened Christian gathering church. His sermons drew tens of thousands, and televised miracles such as these went viral. But it was his Instagram that really made people wonder. The man's social media looked like a luxury catalog, private jets, mansions, designer suits, the whole gamut. He told his followers that God made him rich to inspire them. Poverty was demonic and prosperity was proof of holiness. And the people believed him. Oh, they really believed him. In a faith-driven haze, they sold land, drained savings, and handed over their last rand, convinced Bushiri's latest anointed oil or miracle seed would unlock blessings. Spoiler alert, it didn't. The only person who seemed to be getting blessed was Bushiri. Bushiri's garage boasted a fleet of Bentleys, not to mention a multi-million-dollar mansion in Pretoria, and luxury private jets he'd been blessed with for gospel missions. But when the real source of those blessings got exposed, goodness, it was messy. Under the guise of prophetic investment programs, authorities say Bushiri and his wife Mary laundered millions. In 2020, he and his wife got arrested for fraud, money laundering, and thefts exceeding 100 million rand. That's around $7 million. And yet his membership stood behind him, even taking to social media with the hashtags #HandsOffMajor1. But the craziest part was yet to come. While they were on bail, awaiting trial, the couple vanished from South Africa. Their excuse? The South African government wasn't doing enough to safeguard their lives. Guess what? The South African government is still trying to extradite them to this day. What's even crazier is the fact that he still keeps on packing crowds like nothing ever happened. Some are strong believers. Others are probably just going in hopes of getting their money refunded.
To restore life, to deliver from demons, through the faith of others besides the sick, through the faith of the desperate, and
either way, they're still there every Sunday, hearing Bushiri preach and prophesy to them, convinced beyond any doubt that his words are the same as God's. These men's behaviors highlight the ease with which religious beliefs can easily be manipulated and the disturbing consequences thereafter. But if you'd like to check out another situation of pastors manipulating their flock's trust in them, then check out this next video on the most corrupted black pastors in the world. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.